It's finally official. The Royal Gazette has published the final rules for the Phuket Sandbox. We'll give you all the details and answer your most frequently asked questions about the sandbox. But first, I have to finish setting up our new studio here. Hello out there, world. Welcome to another 60 Seconds in Thailand, the show that keeps you up to date on the reopening of Thailand tourism. And today is our biggest story since this program launched, because today is the day that quarantine-free travel has officially begun. We'll have much more on that in a minute, but first, a quick update on the COVID situation. Earlier this week, restaurants were ordered closed here in Bangkok as several provinces were plunged back into what they call the dark red zones, with daily COVID numbers much higher than they'd like and higher than they've ever been. These 10 provinces are centered in two distinct zones, the first being the area surrounding Bangkok and the second being the deep south close to the Malaysian border. On top of the restaurant closures, they've gone back to the old seal and bubble strategy, but this time they're applying it to several construction worker camps where clusters of COVID have popped up. When asked for his thoughts on using this technique, which bears his name, Grammy-winning singer Seal responded by telling us, "We're never gonna survive unless we go a little crazy." So what sorts of numbers send these COVID alarm bells ringing here in Thailand? Well, yesterday saw an all-time high of 53 deaths, with 4,786 new cases being reported. Since the third wave started back on April 1st, there have been over 230,000 cases, resulting in close to 2,000 deaths. Do these numbers warrant stricter lockdown measures? Well, here's the results of a recent poll done on our very own show, where over half of you think it's too much, but 1 in 5 of you still say the lockdown should be even tougher. For a little perspective, America had 294 deaths from COVID yesterday, still nearly 5 times more than Thailand. But to them, these numbers now seem tiny and very safe. In fact, we have footage of a recent event that illustrates this very point. I believe they called it the Redneck Rave.
Dozens of people are facing criminal charges after a 5-day party was held in South Central Kentucky. It was called the Redneck Rave. During the 5 days, EMS responded to broken bones, severed and dislocated fingers, and one person was even impaled.
We'll just pull it out, Chad. It's only going to leave a little mark.
Damn. I'm sorry I missed that one. I had a hankering for some meth and severed digits just last weekend. Now, an update on the Moderna vaccine and its availability here in Thailand. Reports are that demand here is high, and the private hospitals are ordering millions of doses. The price to go this route is going to be 3,400 baht for 2 doses. So that's 1,700 baht per dose. They're saying reservations can be made beginning next week, but appointments won't start until October. They're hoping to get pre-orders in to determine demand and figure out how much of the vaccine they should actually order. But beware, as there's some scams being reported from swindlers taking pre-orders with no intention of filling these orders. So be careful and don't do anything stupid, like letting a tuk-tuk driver in Chiang Mai tell you the bar you asked him to go to is closed, but he knows one that's open. And now for the biggest news of the day, the biggest news of the year for Thailand tourism. That's right, today is the day. It's open, baby, come on in. I'll see you at the club. Let's go out all night. Oh, wait, calm down, Chris. This all starts on just one island with the Phuket Sandbox, and as most of you know, there might be a string or two attached, a hoop or two to jump through, an obstacle or two to overcome, a knot or two to... Who writes this garbage? Man, sorry about that. There have been many conditions and restrictions to this program that have been reported in the past month, from mandatory wristbands to who you might not be allowed to have sleep over at your place. So this report is going to cut through the misconceptions and summarize some of the key elements of the official rules of the Phuket Sandbox. Seems like we're spending our budget on special effects around here. Strange, we don't even have a studio anymore. Anyways, we will dig deeper and answer the most common questions we've received from many of you out there. But first, here's a quick summary of the program itself. Number 1, you must be fully vaccinated and show proof. Next, only those from specific countries are allowed to participate. You must secure a certificate of entry, or COE, from your local Thai embassy. You must have a minimum of $100,000 in health coverage. You'll be asked to provide proof of payment for your hotel booking and proof of payment for the necessary COVID tests during your stay. Just a few hoops to jump through, not so bad. Then why has this comic been making the rounds on local social media this week? Well, the devil is in the details, and there have been a lot of questions asked this week. We thought that it would be a service for you, our viewers, to run through an FAQ, and to do this, we've put our #1 field reporter on the case. See, are you with us? Yes, Chris, I'm here. Can you make sense of this Phuket Sandbox program? Well, Chris, I can try, and to do this, I'm going to walk you through some questions and answers that should give everyone out there a much deeper look at this whole program. Question number 1, how can I get a COE, a certificate of entry? The answer to this starts with the best advice we can give to anyone, which is to contact your local Thai embassy and have them run you through the process. But to give you some details, here's an example of what the Thai embassy in the UK issued as it pertains to this whole process. You can see the bottom section is specifically about the COE, giving application paths and details for both Thais and non-Thais. This process is an extra step. I'd call this one more of a pain in the ass than a deal breaker. It's really not that hard to get. Question number 2, what happens when I arrive at the Phuket airport? Well, they have what they're calling 7 steps, 7 countdown. They just love to coin catchy names for everything over here, don't they? Anyways, here's how it works so you can prepare. Step 1, get your temperature checked. I don't know how often this happens where you're from, but in Thailand it happens 20 times a day just from walking into a 7-Eleven or going to a restaurant, so get used to it. Next, you're gonna head to an area where they'll check your documents for the first time, and you'll also be asked to download their tracking and alert applications that are going to be mandatory. Next, over to health control where they check your documents again, then off to immigration, then down to baggage claim, and finally you get to leave, right? Not so fast. Follow the sandbox sign and you'll end up in arrivals testing, where you have to get a COVID test at your expense. Now you're done and you can head on over to your hotel to check in. Question 3, do I have to take any more COVID tests during my stay? Yes, and here's the details. You need to take one more test on day 6 or 7, and if you're staying longer than that, you're going to need a third and final test on day 12 or 13. Any of these tests come back positive, and this lands you in mandatory healthcare facilities for treatment at your own expense. Oh, the humanity. If you test negative, you can go anywhere else on the island. Question 4, what airlines are flying there? As of now, you got British Airways, Cathay Pacific, El Al, Emirates, Etihad Airways, Qatar Airways, Singapore Airlines, and Thai have all announced direct flights to Phuket. Question 5, must accommodations be prepaid? Can I move from one hotel to another? Well, that's a two-parter. First off, yes, accommodations for 14 nights have to be prepaid, unless you're staying less than 14 nights, and then proof of an earlier flight out must also be shown. You got to stay at one of the SHA Plus hotels for at least the first 7 straight nights, and then you can move to another hotel, but it also has to be SHA Plus approved. Question number 6, what about kids? Well, travelers under the age of 18 must be accompanied by their parents or legal guardian, and they also have to show proof of a negative COVID test upon arrival that was taken no more than 72 hours before their flight. Question number 7, I've heard there's an alcohol ban. What's the latest? Although bars and nightlife-only venues remain closed, restaurants in Phuket are open, and now they're even allowed to serve alcohol. Previous to this, you were allowed to purchase and enjoy alcohol at your house or hotel room, but it seems that restaurants are now going to be able to sell it right on premises, so sundowners on the beach are back in the menu. So there you have it, Chris. Those are some of the finer details on the Sandbox. Wow, see, that's some great info and a lot for our viewers to consider. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the current state of the program and its chances of success. Well, Chris, it's easy to see that with restrictions this heavy, it's not going to be an instant rush back to mass tourism, but that's okay. To those naysayers out there that think this is going to do nothing, well, you're wrong. People have already booked some tickets and they're going to be arriving this week. These people are the real heroes of this whole story as they pioneer the reopening of this country's ailing tourism businesses. So my final thoughts are that this program will start small but grow. And you're going to see it spread to other places like Koh Samui very soon. Mass tourism will come back, but not until almost all of these restrictions are lifted. Chris? Well said, C. And I tend to agree. And to those few who are arriving to Phuket this week, on behalf of the entire country of Thailand, thank you. Thank you for jumping through all these hoops to come back and support the country you love. To everyone else, this is just the start, and things are going to be changing quickly around here. So subscribe to this channel, and we promise to keep you up to date every step of the way. Man, this is a little bit hot in here today now. Oh, lucky cat. Just packing up my studio. It's ridiculous, the things I do for this show. When are we going to get a studio? I've got a budget for the special effects and no damn studio.